It's just a PowerPoint I did a couple of years ago on the idea of sparse in aesthetic realm. And the main words are dispersal, scattered, empty, infrequent, concentrated, lacking, inert, fragment, brief, transient, withdrawal, pause, bland. Could someone read? Panda?
A sparse presentation can indicate that something is missing or is simply bland, but another way of understanding is to imagine a quality related to withdrawal, a quality born out of a pause of intention, a letting go, a sense of fascination with a condition in which a hush in the pulse of time might occur, but within any of these things a simple state of repose. Illegibility. Illegibility of this world all twice over. Robust clocks agree the cracked hour. Hoarsely, you clamped in your depths, climb out of yourself forever. World all twice over. Paul Celan. Paul Celan's poetry flickers on the edge of disappearing from the grasp of legibility. The relationship between words and the relationship between words and space, a condition of language arresting the act of creating meaning by transposing it into a zone that passes through misrecognition. This process undoes the reader through the introduction of a making strange of sense. Mouth out into this world, tiny little thing, before its time, in a god form. What? Girl? Yes, tiny little girl, into this, out into this, before her time, God forsaken, whole called, no matter, parents unknown, unheard of, he having vanished, thin air no sooner buttoned up his breeches. She similarly, 8 months later, almost to the tick, so no love, spared that, no love such as normally vented on the speechless infant in the home, no, nor indeed, for that matter, any of any kind, no love of any kind, at any subsequent stage. So typical affair, nothing of any note till coming up to 60, when, what, 70? Good God, coming up to 70, wandering in a field, looking aimlessly for cowslips to make a ball, a few steps, then stop, stare into space, then on, a few more, stop and stare again, so on, drifting around, when suddenly, gradually, all went out, all that early April morning light, and she found herself in the what? Who? No, she? Pause and movement one, found herself in the dark, and if not exactly insentient, for she could still hear the buzzing, so called, in the ears, and a ray of light came and went, came and went. Not I, 1971.
That's Beckett.
Samuel Beckett conceived this play as a short monologue in which only the visibility of the lips appeared. Watching and listening are drawn together into a closed cycle of becoming. Philip Guston, Untitled, 1967. Philip Guston's drawing might be simply a right angle, or might be the edge of a table, but anyway, it appears to explore that space before naming occurs, what Kant called schematism. Agnes Martin, Day and Night, 1961 to 64. The paintings of Agnes Martin are presentations of surfaces of inscription which eradicate depth in order that a pulsation of effects might occur. Thus, the drama of a figure ground gestalt disappears into a harmonic play of the elsewhere of relation. With Barnett Newman, the stripe signifies the light of being. This stripe opens out, a light that yields to its passage, into the horizontality of radiant becoming. From inside an otherwise ordinary wooden box emerge the occasional sounds of hammering, sawing, and sanding. These sounds form part of a 3.5 hour recording that Morris created while making the very box in front of us. The audio soundtrack reframes our experience of the work, suggesting an ongoing act of labour which is interrupted only by the necessity to rest or retrieve more supplies. Robert Morris, Box with the Sound of Its Own Making, 1961. The box is just like an object in the way a chair or a hammer is. As such, it is quickly dispensed with on the level of attention, but there is something strange about this box, as it has a sound recording of its own making. Attention thus shifts from the object to the structure of temporal actions undertaken to create it. In all, just a simple shift, but one that works on the very construction of perception. July 16, 1969, on Kawara. On Karawa's work consists of the attention to the actuality of time recorded in each sign painting of the day of production. It is on the surface of bland undertaking, but over a lifetime of practice, an accumulation of life task stands as the but over a lifetime of practice, an accumulation of like task stands as the in-between of endurance and transformation. John Latham, 1 second drawing. John Latham's art was concerned with the different scales of events, such as tiny interval and deep time. The least condition in which a drawing might occur is 1 second, and this drawing manifests this tiny particle or spasm of this measure. The only meaning that might occur is in this relation to marks on paper and the duration of generation. Lygia Clark, Estruturas de Caxas de Phosphoros, 1964. Don't know how to pronounce that. The Brazilian artist Lygia Clark composed this work out of the everyday cast-aside empty matchboxes. It lies at the intersection of a work composed of found objects and the construction of a model or even a toy, but whatever it has a status of, a transient object without clear context. Helioiticisia, how do you pronounce that? Helioiticisia. Oiticika.
Autistica, I think.
Okay.
I just saw his work. Sorry.
Penny Travel Malacalia. Helioiticika's work exists at the crossroads of sculpture and installation, but this also suggests an entrance into participation or social context. The materiality of such works is heterogeneous to the way the relationship and, as such, reoccasions perception related between social and natural worlds come into the field of perception. Bryce Marden, 2017. I kept putting the same colour on, the same colour, but every time I put it on, it was different. Each time it was this whole new light colour experience. It was not a revelation, but a whole wonderful new experience. To me, it involves harnessing some of the powers of the earth, harnessing and communicating. Bryce Marden. In this exhibition at the Gagosian Gallery, Bryce Marden presented a series of paintings that explore the memory body of Renaissance paintings in terms of the underpainting that is hidden from visible perception. As such, it is painting about painting, but also about the lapse between periods in which these occur. Park Seo-bo. The foremost spirit of Dan Sika-hwa is a lack of purpose in action. No purpose should exist behind an action or behaviour. The second spirit of Dan Si Hua is the repetition of action. One can reach a level of Zen only after this repetitive action. The third is a combination of the physicality and spirituality formed by this course of repetitive action. Park Seo-bo. Korean monochrome painting explores both the Western experience of the monochrome and the Eastern conception of ink painting, which gave rise to a quite different sense of the monochrome. Ma Yuan, 1155 to 1235, Clouds Rising from the Green Sea. Wow. Around the year 1200 or 1200, the Sung painter Ma Yuan painted images of water within a series. Nothing occurs other than a record of different ways in which water is subject to different weather conditions. Haikuin Ikaku, Enso, 18th century. The practice of painting enzos dates back to 17th century Japan. They might be understood as being a 1-second drawing, which takes a lifetime to achieve. Hiroshi Sugimoto, Past Presence, 087, Dog, Alberto Giacometti, 2018. In this, a memory of image stalking the present, a shadowy vestige of past time. Whatever, the trace of the artwork is seemingly presented without the illusionary certainty of prescribed place and time. Alan McCullum Collection of 100 Plaster Surrogates, 1982 to 1990. Repetition within minimal difference, but a difference that occurs by being with the accumulation of passage, like days that pass into years. To make something which looks like itself is therefore the problem, the solution. To make something which is unravelling, its own justification, is something like a dream. There is no paradox, for that is only a separation from reality. We have no mind, only its dream of being, a dream of substance when there is one. Richard Tuttle, The Place in the Window, 11, number 2, 2013. Richard Tuttle's art exists within a space between making things and curating them in unusual ways that makes each presentation into an event. 26. Line piece. An exploration of the least condition by which a work might solicit attention. Harris Epaminonda, installation Casey Kaplan, New York, 2016. Harris Epaminonda creates exhibitions that suggest an internal logic, but at the same time destroys narrative continuity that would construct such a reading of intended meaning. Objects and images appear but also withdraw into the space of their surround, leaving the viewer to deal with the gaps in continuity that are left within this process. A pile of sand, a brush leaning against the wall, the pile with light over its expanse, the brush partially lit from the side, a space serving as an interval that might yield to thought or not. Ian Keir, Fragments of Great Visions, 2013. Ian Keir is concerned with the relationship between the structure of aphorism, encounters with found materials, and structuring of spaces whereby different conjunctions might occur. The idea of a work exhibiting a characteristic which could be characterized as being sparse implies a concentrated sense of attention. There is within this an evasion of an over-determination of content, and with this a process of letting materials speak outside of a signifying intention.
Thanks for that reading. Very good. Any thoughts?
There's a lot in that presentation, so much to think about. I like what you said about Ian Keir's work at the end there. I liked how you described it. Because his work takes up a lot of space, and yet it's incredibly sparse. And it does make you pause for thought. That makes sense. You said something about aphorism in relation to his work. Well, I didn't. Could you go back to that?
Aphorism is you could say, a twice told story. And it's a density, complete, but a fragment which is complete. It holds itself. So he often takes found material from a site and makes a structure to do with that relationship to being within a structure, being in a site. So I'll go to a city and find fragments from around the place where he's going to exhibit and make a seeming narrative out of that, but a narrative which undoes itself. So you can't read it directly. So it's extremely indirect. And out of that is a kind of as much a spacing as a group of material. So you're not sure what you're looking at and what you're being with. So it makes you it makes you slow down and attend to the spaces and attend to the materiality of the presentation, and lets you just be. It's not a drama. It's an attention, but you don't know quite what the attention is for, or attention is what. You get that in Harris Epaminondas' work, where you think, where is it? What is it? And it's the entire space, which is the attention. So you get pauses and intervals and emptiness and a feeling that something's already happened or something's about to happen. So it just sustains enough attention for you to be with it. But you have to slow down enough to perceive that. So you partly pay attention to yourself in the act of being with.
It's quite hard to engage with those works when you're with other people, I find. So, because you really have to pay attention to yourself in the space with the materials.
There's a certain emptying out, which is a necessary condition.
Yeah.
It's not noisy. It's the opposite of noise, but intentionally quiet either. But I find with Ian Kerr's work, it's just enough attention to sustain interest. It explores that threshold.
Jonathan, he uses these sort of he used this balloon type thing, and I don't know what the significance of the balloon, sort of that this inflated polyvinyl thing is. What does this stand for? So I love Ian Keir's work, but sometimes I like his bus stop stuff and everything, and all the scratching, the markings, everything. But some of it is a bit so abstract.
Yeah, well, that's what he's testing. He's testing a limit.
Yeah, very much, very much. Love it. I liked his Alison Jacques exhibition and the end notes and everything. But they're very transient, they're very fragile, they're so fragile. You're in this space and you feel like you could walk over it.
Yeah. But I think that's the point of the work.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes he puts tiny little things on the floor that if you're not paying attention, you could easily just sort of stamp on or tread on, break. But he doesn't mind if you break them, but it's part of the work that you might stumble on them or something.
I mean, we got used to very noisy art with the Brit art period. And it was a very strong reaction to that. Aesthetic one-liners, declarative intentions, transgressions, sort of noise. I mean, you shared a studio with him, so you shared a lot of the processes. What did you see?
What did I see? So a lot of the materials he chose were everyday found materials. He was very interested in architecture and architectural buildings and the space of them and reproducing models of buildings, but were very particular to, say, an argument or discussion he was trying to have around those buildings. And there was just a lot of glue and paper and making and a lot of hard work, just endlessly making stuff, sometimes destroying it, remaking it, trying it out. And yeah, it's gathered as enormous amounts of very delicate materials. And using the space of the studio to experiment in, try things out. Is that what you mean? I mean, his background is in theatre and set design, so he's got a lot of practical skills, making skills, and he could really knot stuff together very quickly. So make an item, turn things around fast. But yeah, there's an intense interest in the relationship between various forms that he was making, so objects that were, taking up space, like these blown up, sort of very delicate containers, if you like, very, 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 very delicate and easy to break, and then a two-dimensional object on the wall, and the relationship between these two objects and what how you encounter them in the space, like you're saying, exactly how you described Jonathan. And also experimenting with delicate colours, nothing too loud, was all very much on the edge of disappearing, appearing and disappearing.
I think there's also quite a close, they're not literary, but there's a very close relationship with literary forms, like Beckett poetry or Beckett plays or Porcelain's poetry. I think it's a sort of something which occurred in literature first.
One thing for fun. It's not it's not academic story. But I have a one of my friends used to work Park Sabo's workshop. The monochrome painter that you on the PPT. I heard he has hundreds of workers in his workshop, and he never hires female because he believes female brings bad energy in the studio. One thing for fun. Fun fact.
Never. He never at all.
Yeah, that's what I heard. He never hired female students or female artists to work with.
Mm.
I found that interesting because if that is based on his belief of the negative in energy, that might be coming from female. But then he was talking about spirituality and Zen, which I understand is more of the balance and harmony and yin and yang and that sort of things together. Anyway, that's his own practice. I just found that a bit intriguing or puzzling. Then maybe that's the, in a way, the young energy, male energy, or positive force that he want to put it into his all those scribbling and work.
I also heard he holds his brush only when journalists visits his studio. So
There's all sorts of theatre.
hmm. So Jonathan, I shared to the group your the three-leg paint drawing, writing
Yeah.
about the three legs. So I think everyone has an access to your essay now. I shared that to WhatsApp group.
Just maybe just in the last 10 minutes, I'll just look at the text.